There are those of you, whether it's in a personal situation or whether it's in a situation with pastors or whatever, that are going before God and you're saying to the Lord, you know me. I didn't mean anybody any harm. I didn't mean to do this and I didn't mean to do that. Sometimes it's like going to the person and saying, I'm so sorry if I hurt you, when that person knows exactly what they did. And when you talk to God, remember who you're talking to. Remember, you can't fool him. You can't manipulate him and say, well, you know me. I didn't mean that. I didn't do that. No. When you go to God, you got to go to God with a sincere heart, desiring to know what you did do. I had given it in other examples, in other tapes, of how I went before God and he asked me to do a certain thing and I would not do it. And I kept telling him, you know, I can't do it because of this and I can't do it. Those were all my excuses. And he kept saying back to me, do you know who you're talking to? When I realized it was God, I went and told him the truth. I didn't do what you wanted because I didn't want to. Do you honestly think that God exposes sin to multitudes of people about certain other people simply because they never knew it, they never understood it? I've got news for you. God had to come to you over and over and over again, and you would not listen. You were head on and determined as to what you wanted and what you were doing, and you were positive that God was going to back you up. And you were also dead wrong. Don't you understand? You cannot play with a living God. I would have never gotten this message. In 2002, he told me how much trouble the church was in because he was so deeply concerned about those that were being lost, being caught up in the tangle of what you were doing. Now, that means that you are no different than what you think, and you sit above everybody else, and you are better than anybody else. And that one that's cleaning the latrines like I used to, and that one that scrubs your floor on their hands and knees like I used to, that you thought was nothing but dirt to prop up your feet on, God is saying to you, you are the same as them. You are as responsible for your actions as them. Unfortunately for you, you wanted that responsibility. You wanted everything. Now you have people who are look up towards God and they ask God, forgive them, I'm a sinner. They don't go before God and say, boy, am I glad I didn't do that. Boy, am I glad I didn't go there. Boy, am I glad I wasn't that kind of a preacher. No, but if you dig, you will find out what kind you really were. You think I didn't go through all of these things with God before I could come and give you this message? You think that I didn't understand every last detail of it before I could come and speak out the truth? I'm as human as you are. I went through every single avenue and lie and excuse that you could come to not go in the door. I went through first. Why? Not because I'm so great, not because I'm anything, but because God wanted to use somebody to cause people to understand what he's about. He doesn't want to hurt none of you. There's not a single one of you that he wants to see go down, that he wants to see destroyed. He says it in the Word. He says it when he took his church to God the Father, and he said, I sanctified them through thy truth. And thy word is truth. I sanctified them, Lord. And none is lost except the son of perdition. And the son of perdition was the Judas that took all the things of God and went against him, who is still an existent in people today who are taking everything about God and using it to their own purposes, and they are turning on God with God. They are using God to say, it's okay, quote and unquote, to kill. It's okay to do this. God is with you. God is now an abortionist. According to MSNBC, Jesus Christ He himself said this stuff. According to certain doctrines, and I can even tell you what they are, Jesus Christ was married. According to other doctrines, Jesus Christ was a homosexual. You have dirtied his name. You have blasphemed him long enough. He is fed up to here of his church leaders doing this, patting it on the back, trying to get recognition. You see someone in power, the first thing you do is try to wheedle your way in because you are so and so, and everything's going to be all right. Why? Thousands of people follow you. Well, you know what? I didn't ask thousands of people to follow me. I asked for nothing from God. What I asked God for was to give me the grace to be pleasing in His sight, to obey His will to such a degree that I will never fall into the hands of Satan, that I will always be living in the hands and heart of the living God. That is where all of us are supposed to go. I'm only a living example. Jesus was your greatest living example. And if you couldn't follow him and you wouldn't listen to him and you took his words in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and you twisted it to mean what you want, you're going to tell me now that you find out that maybe one thing you did wrong. You're going to tell me now that God is with you and he's going to help you turn the whole church. No, he's not. Oh, no, he's not. There are people who are more worthy to be behind that pulpit than you are, that you have kept down for years. People who live the life, and you knew they lived the life, and you did not care, because in your head, well, I'm the one that's called. I'm the anointed one. So you didn't care. It's the same exact thing happening in the political world. Exactly. Well, I'm a senator. Well, I'm a congressman. So I'm allowed to do anything I want to do. If I want to lie, cheat, and steal, nobody will ever find out because I have the money to crush them. I have the ability to stop them. I can make up any lies because I have this witchcraft in my hands. You're crazy. You are crazy. Because you do not know that it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. You follow a different religion. Oh, you pretend before everybody and you say, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. Well, you hate them. You pray against them 7 times a day. But I'm this and I'm that. Because you know, according to what you believe, get close to them. Find out their weaknesses and then attack them. And you think you're going to make it? You honestly think that the God you have who died in the grave, when ours, Jesus Christ, rose from the dead, and he's still alive, but he's more importantly alive in us. I am telling you that when you belong to a religion that you can say, well, we follow, like Paul said, we follow after Paul, and we follow after Frank, we follow after John, we follow after... Well, you know what? All of those people are dead. The only one that is alive is Jesus Christ. The only one that lives forever is Jesus Christ. There's not a pope that could save his life. There's not a parishioner. There is not a preacher, a teacher, or anybody that could preserve and save their life. Oh, you could get drugs and you might live a little longer. You might pretend like some of you, these women who are virtually, actually ugly from what they've done to their own bodies. To make themselves look better, every operation destroys their looks, including those that went through plastic surgery as preachers, including them, where they have if they have this line here from sleeping, because see, this is the way I sleep. I sleep on my side, so this pushes this out. But because they don't want to be accused of being mean, and they are afraid of what you will think of these lines, they go in and have surgery done, so it's not like that. And so some of their surgery puts them like this, and they look awful. If it's not natural, it's not natural. Not because I'm any different. I went through my times of wearing makeup. I went through my times of doing things to look nicer until light bulb, Jesus the light, turned the light on me. I remember I was dying of lupus, and there was a woman who hated me and competed with me because she thought I was beautiful, more beautiful than her. And because of that, she worked daily against me to destroy that. And I cried. I said, God, why does this person hate me so bad? And there were many of them. If they would literally take a picture of me and them together and cut it in half so no one would ever see that I was on that picture, because the difference could be seen. And so they would take it. They did it in the church. Whole church just kept on cutting off the pictures. They'd cut me out and just throw me away in the pictures. So I had no pictures of when I was younger. And that's fine. What do I care what people think? Understand the kind of mind that it takes to do such things. It's like the one that has that beautiful child next to her, and she's old, and you don't have to be ugly in order to be old. I'm old, and at first I thought, oh, I'm ugly, but God says, no, 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 that's not the way it goes, because He said that all the things they do will pass away, but my spirit will never pass away. So I will always put the glory of God on you. So the one in the news that went like this and pushed that little child out of the way. Why do you think she pushed that child out of the way? Because everybody could see the difference between her face and that little one's face. The beauty of that little one troubled her so bad, she did not want her in a picture, and she had to push her. There was no other reason for doing it. None whatsoever. That little girl was doing nothing. You could see it clearly by millions of people who watched that. That little girl was guilty of nothing. And she knew when she was shoving that little girl, she was shoving her out of the picture. And then when she got caught, she lied and she said, oh, I was just trying to make sure she was in the picture. Oh, yeah, by pushing her out. It reminds me of the young kid who broke into my house, stole something, broke the window, and stuck it outside the window of a room that they knew we never went into, and they figured that it wouldn't be found, and he could come back at night and pick it up. I see him walking straight out of my house, and his mother's sitting there with me. He's literally closing the door of my house behind him. And I said, what are you doing in my house? And he said, I wasn't in your house. And his mother says, he wasn't in your house. So that night, for some reason, the Lord led me into that room where the glass was broken by him, and there was $60 sitting on the ledge that he had stolen. That was proof he was in my house. But this is the kind of thinking that they have. This is the kind of thinking that they can fool and deceive somebody who does have God. Because these two people, the mother and the son, knew I had God. They knew I had more of God than anybody that they had ever seen or heard. But yet, they wanted to rebel against it. Why? They would tell you exactly why. They hated me. They hated me without a cause. I did nothing to them. I gave them everything. And giving them everything, the more I gave, the more they hated. So here we go. Here we are. They aren't the only ones. I won't say it was my family or wasn't my family, because I gave a lot to each person. And God knows it. Whether they were in my family or not my family, I didn't care. All I cared about, all I saw was children suffering. And I made the sacrifice of the parents that I would leave alone till the children grew. And I did that until the children could understand, because children, no matter what, will always love their mother and father. If they have any kinds of brains at all, they always will. That's why God tells you to obey your mother and father and honor them. He didn't say they had to be perfect. He didn't say they had to be right. But while you are under their authority, do it. The same with the submission to a husband. If he asks you to do something that means nothing, maybe it means you to drop everything you're doing and run and see what he wants because you hear his voice. That's not a sin for him to want you. There's nothing wrong with that. But when he demands and rules and rides over you and drives you and demands you to have his supper on time or you will pay, demands you to do this or you will pay, because you're going to learn you're nothing but a woman. Now that is a tyrant. That is a rotten person whose core is evil. Now, you listen to what I'm going to tell you. He told you to obey the authorities. That means you obey the law, even if they made it a lying wrong. And I'm not talking about abortion. I'm talking about obeying the laws of not doing violence and harm to other people, not doing violence and harm in any way. That's the law I'm talking about. Because no Christian has to do that. No Christian has to lift one finger against anybody who has hurt them. And no Christian should want one finger lifted up. Like the mother of that child that was pushed out of the way. She could get angry. She could get mad. She could hate. She could just want to make her pay. Who is she? Who is anybody to make another person pay? But when you have people who are proven murderers, who have done evil to other people, those are the ones that you would call. They went into church and were told what they believed was wrong, so they dusted their feet off on telling them that abortion was wrong. And they went right into Satanism, right into witchcraft. They couldn't get their way with God, so they went right into it. And I've got to tell you the truth. When you put your hand into witchcraft and you know God, you are what God calls a daughter of hate, because you were born out of hatred that you cannot have your way. Hatred. I mean, he told me a long time ago, every time I saw a witchcraft working, he would say, Marion, it is a daughter of hate, because nobody would turn on me with such hatred had they not been angry that they couldn't have their way with me. And he told me clearly the difference. There's a difference between those who are entertaining the son of perdition, meaning taking everything of God and using it to destroy God, and those that have made mistakes, those that aren't saved yet, those that don't understand what they've done, the ungodly, the sinner. All of those are different kinds of sins. But the son of perdition is completely different. He has dedicated his life to destroy Christianity, to destroy the Bible, to destroy everything about it. He or she, and many of them before others, well, I pray for you. Well, I'm praying for, because they know that in order for them not to be of God, they must pray for you. But they pray repetitious prayer that means nothing. And they pray more prayer verbally out of their mouth before God to destroy you. Seriously, read it in Isaiah, the kind of prayer that they do. Read it in Isaiah, how they love to come before God and cry out to God. And they just love to hear from him. And how they hate and they backbite and they expect God to bring justice on something when they've never had any. People in this nation who right now are expecting justice are people who live for God, not people who are still going out to with these sex animals, still going out with these monsters, still having fellowship with all these monsters. No, that's not what it's about. That is not what God is talking about. You have to rightly divide the word of truth. You have to have God open up your eyes and tell you the difference. And I told you, in the name of Jesus, the basic difference is this. On one hand, they love to kill babies and use the body parts. On the other hand, they hate it. They won't do it. On one hand, they hate Israel. On the other hand, they love Israel. It's clear. The two important issues with God are those two weightier matters, because the length of your skirt down to the floor, the length of anything is unimportant to God when it's put beside murder of the innocent. When it is put, so understand, that's why you have to rightly divide it. And many pastors, well, they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle it, so we just won't talk about it in church. Well, we might lose our 5013. We just might lose it. And then what will we do? We won't have any money anymore from these people who literally hate God, who want to control the word out of your mouth. They want to make sure you never tell the truth. Understand, I have been poor and lived with nothing. I have come out of the slums and lived with nothing. And I have sat and enjoyed life because I went from one extreme to the other, and I know both. And I will tell you, if I had to go back to the extreme poverty, there is no way you're going to tell me I won't be happy and filled with joy, because I've already committed myself no matter what. Because if I don't have enough money for clothing or for anything else, I am not going to cry to you, and I am not going to cry to somebody else. I am not going to say, oh, God's going to kill me if you don't give me. God's going to make me suffer if you don't. Now, if you don't dump those people that listen to that kind of pastor, something is wrong. Get it before God. See where the truth is. God will guide you like you never saw. He will lead you into all truth like He promised.